So President Park Geun-hye replaced her finance minister with a three-term member of parliament and close policy confidant in a cabinet reshuffle last week. Of course, this in the aftermath of a ferry disaster that killed more than 300 people. What does the president have in mind with regards to the economy for the remainder of her term, and what can we expect from the new economic team? Let's get some analysis. For that, Dr. Jun-sok joins us live in the studio. Dr. Yang is, of course, a professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
Right. Let's try reading into the president's pick to head her new economy team. We know that President Park has been placing extra emphasis on getting the recovery or the economy back on track to recovery since taking office last year, but especially in the wake of April's ferry disaster. So her pick as a new finance minister, what does the president have in mind?
Okay, I think it's a bit of a paradox, but she's looking for somebody who's independent but also thinks like her. And I think in that sense, Mr. Park Geun-hye is a very good candidate. He's served as a member of parliament, so he's used to getting around the gridlock in the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. He's also served as the Minister of Knowledge Economy during Lee Myung-bak's administration, and that's going to play a crucial part in her three-year economic plan because she's interested in innovative economy, and the Ministry of Knowledge Economy is now the Ministry of Trade and Industry, but it also incorporated some aspects of the Ministry of Science and Technology, especially the research and development. So he's probably the best person to be in charge of her three-year program right now.
So do we foresee a change in the economic policy of the country?
Okay, well, compared to Jun-sok, the previous minister, he seems to, Mr. Che seems to be a lot more forceful personality. He's a lot more active. So maybe he'll play a bigger role in publicizing what President Park wants. Also, there's probably going to be a change in policy. I think he's going to take a more active stand on expansionary fiscal policy, deregulation policy, the innovation policy, but we'll have to see. According to the latest reports, the Ministry of Finance originally planned to announce the policy goals for the next half of the year in late June, but they apparently moved that schedule to early July so that the incoming minister can have some input in it.
Right. So Mr. Che definitely has big challenges ahead of him to stimulate domestic demand as well as create more jobs, right? What about, you briefly touched upon the monetary policy, and there have been speculations that he may try to lower the interest rate, which has been steady for the past 13 months at 2.5%. Now, in that case, he'll have to come in conflict with the governor of BOK, Bank of Korea, Lee Ju-yeol.
Yeah, the Bank of Korea has seemed to have been giving some signal that they're going to consider raising the interest rate because they're afraid that if the growth is what they thought it would be last year, then there might be some inflationary pressures. But right now, the Korean growth is running lower than last year's forecast, and the President as well as the Mr. Che wants to have a very expansionary policy, I think. So they will probably consider lowering the interest rate a bit more than they would have in the past. But also, Mr. Choi has mentioned that the Bank of Korea and Ministry of Finance has their own separate roles to play, and they make independent decisions. So I don't think it's going to be a very hard pressure. My personal expectation is that the interest rate will remain at the same level unless something really changes in the next few months.
Right. Let's talk about some borrowing or lending regulations that we have had for a few years now. The LTV loan-to-value ratio and DTI debt-to-income ratio. Of course, these were put in place to, I suppose, regulate household debt. And now Mr. Park Geun-hye has told reporters over the weekend that he thinks that those regulations should be eased.
Okay, well, the LTV is loan to value. That means when you get a loan, you can only get a certain percent of the collateral as the loan. This was actually first designed to limit speculation in apartments during the early 2000s when people thought that there was a speculative bubble in the real estate market, especially around the Gangnam area. Debt to income ratio is almost the same thing. The bank will not loan you any money beyond a certain percent of your annual income. Now, the problem is that the Korean real estate market is right now
sluggish, to say the least.
Very sluggish, and they're looking at this extra kick. If they lower this ratio, perhaps people will buy more houses. I personally have some doubts about that. Usually, I'm very much in favor of getting rid of these type of regulations. Usually, the banks will not give excessive loans because they're afraid of getting more bad loans. But in this case, because Korean financial institutions do not have a very good track record of maintaining healthy loans, I'm probably in the minority on this, but I'm not quite sure about lowering the LTV and the DTI at this point. I think they'll be better served by standard macroeconomic policies, at least for now.
Right. So definitely something that the Deputy Prime Minister nominee for Economy and Finance Minister needs to take very cautious steps on in changing or devising those regulations.
Yeah, actually, I am not quite sure if the lowering the percentage of LTV and DTI would work. Because, well, it worked in the past because people thought that the housing prices would be going up, and if they take an extra loan and buy an apartment, they would realize some capital gains. I think that expectation is not there right now. So even if you lower that percentage so that people can get more loans, I'm not sure if it will flow into the housing sector.
Right. So with that, I don't know, with the easing of these regulations, with a worse household debt, because it's already huge right now.
Well, I think people usually classify it as just below the danger level, because if you look at the household debt as a percentage of disposable income, it's high. It's about 135%, but the United States and United Kingdom have higher rates higher percentages right now. So we think of it as just below the danger level. But I think the government may be trying to take a calculated risk so that if they worsen the dangers on household debt a little bit, but manage to reinvigorate the real estate market, then that will probably be a gain for the economy overall. But as I mentioned, I'm in a minority on this, but I have my doubts on whether that lowering percentage will work.
Will work as in it will work as effective.
Revitalizing the real estate market.
The real estate market. Well, so for the remainder of President Park's term, I'm sure economy will be at the top, very top of her agenda, and perhaps this new economy team coming in could really boost the livelihoods of the Korean people.
Well, one of the interesting things, I think, one of the really hopeful things is that Mr. Che seems to be a much more forceful personality than Mr. Che. And he also has a lot of expertise in innovative economy because he served as a minister of knowledge economy.
Right.
He might be a very effective person that we can use right now.
Well, that's all the time we have, and thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you.